In the Bible, Jesus was talking about nature in several different passages. And one of his quotes is, "Consider the lilies of the field, how they grow, they toil not, neither do they spin." This verse is a reminder that we should take time to appreciate the simple things in life, like the flowers in the meadow. This segues into my talk about True Father, True Mother, and myself in various tours, being able to observe them and being with them when they did different things. Sometimes they shocked me, sometimes they tickled me, sometimes they were just very contemplative. So I had the opportunity to travel a lot in our church, as we all had. And during a 32-city tour, we did 32 cities in 64 days, which also meant packing up and transporting a lot of equipment and setting up in different venues and so on. And in the course of that time, Father, more than Mother, would appear in different centers and address the mobile staff and the bus teams that were supporting the tour. And during one time, in Minneapolis, St. Paul, he was talking to the mobile staff. Some of the people were Neil Salonen, Chris Bick, Tom Burkholder. There was a number of people. And Father was sitting in a big, comfortable chair. And beside him was a bouquet of flowers. You know, I was presenting bouquets of flowers, both by hand and by display. And he was speaking about the principle of creation, sort of different versions that we need to understand that although we're young in the movement, many of us have college degrees, and some people are associated with being scientists or philosophers, that this didn't matter. That we needed to grow our heart. We needed to understand God's will. And he reached out behind him and pulled out a chrysanthemum from the bouquet. Now, this shocked me. I'm sitting here in the audience, and a couple of months in the church, and it's not something that most people do to their displays that are gifts to them. But he is so comfortable. He's talking to his family, and so he reached behind him, he pulled out this chrysanthemum, and he plucked a petal off of it. He says, all of human history, all of science, has never been able to produce even one petal of a flower. Now, this kind of segues into Jesus' talk, suffer not the lilies, or anyway, they do not toil, they do not spin, etc. He's very comfortable in nature. And those who have been able to travel or see Father in action, fishing or hiking or at the seminary, are able to observe a very focused but relaxed person. That he can address all the creation around him with equal heart of love. So it's very interesting to be in his presence and see him acting naturally. We're used to seeing him on a stage, behind a microphone, giving addresses, talking in sermons at Belvedere, different venues and so on. But to see him just as a casual father, husband, parent, is kind of unusual. And only those who are with him at that time, attending and serving him, or rare occasions he just happened to be at the same time, in the same place, when he's acting this way. Reminds me of different behind-the-scenes views of Father that I've been able to participate in. One of which is on the New Hope, the fishing boat, his first big fishing boat, out of Gloucester. I happened to be driving for the Little Angels on tour of the United States, especially the East Coast. So the driving schedule was very intense. We drive to Washington, D.C., tour the Smithsonian, or the National Museum of Art, and then we drive up to Gloucester, then we drive to East Garden, then we drive. So the driving schedule was very arduous, and very seldom did any of the staff get more than 2 or 3 hours sleep between the different sessions. So here we are, we drive up to Gloucester, and we get on New Hope, and we commence to head out to sea doing tuna fishing. Now, I've never been on a boat on the ocean, but I'm used to motion, driving, and being in airplanes and so on. And so as long as the boat's in motion in one direction, it's very rhythmic, like being in a rocking chair. Hey, sailing with our Father. And all was fine until we got to our fishing area. And the boat slowed down, able to ride the waves up and down and sideways and back and forth. New experience for me, seasickness. So how do you, not knowing the history of True Father's nature on the water, he commenced to weave a catch net, tie it off to the railing that goes up to the pilot house and the wheel. And I'm really feeling green, and I have to go to the bathroom really bad. And he's sitting in the doorway. We can use that. He knows exactly what's going on. He's wondering, okay, are we going to watch more Chum the Waters? And I'm thinking, there has to be another way to go to the bathroom. There has to be. I'll just bear it until he's finished. And he's about 3/4 finished with his catch net. And he's taking his time, weaving, glancing at me, looking out at the ocean. And he finally finishes and he stands up. And I'm in, excuse me, Father, behind him down into the lavatory. So there's no graceful way to squeeze by a person in that position who we love so deeply. And he's just, you tell, he just has this half smile. He glances at him. He knows exactly what's happening. So I'm seasick, I have to go to the bathroom, rush in, and come back out. I don't have to go up on deck because I don't have any real function on the boat. And some of the little angels are around and they're not feeling good either. Yejin was on board, and she commenced to open a jar of kimchi. You never saw a line form so fast of little girls to the bathroom. Hurry up, dancing. And it was both tragic and hilarious. How do you combine those two feelings, tragic and hilarious? And I was ready to collapse from tired. I'd finished what amounted to about a 26-hour driving routine with a couple of hours break here and there. So something that was solid, that was consistent in the cabin was the dining, or a small coffee table next to some couches. It was bolted to the floor. And in it was just enough space for me to lay down underneath and be able to roll and only just lightly bump up against the legs. So I caught a little nap, sleeping under the coffee table on the New Hope while Father was fishing. And that was one of the more entertaining behind-the-scenes aspects of True Father. Also, in the 32-city tour, Missoula, Montana was one of his stops. And he'd commented how Missoula reminded him of Korea and the mountains and so on. And he'd finished his speech, and we went to the church center. And in the course of his addressing us and talking us, True Mother, now this is about True Mother. Those who've read her memoirs know that also from her experience, she likes to give things to members, right? Anything from jewelry to dresses to scarves to ties. Scarves and ties generally throughout the tour were the favorite gift of True Mother to sisters and ties to brothers. Well, there we are in Missoula, and True Mother, you know, his father's finished talking, says, "I have a gift for each of you." And she gets up and she gets this armload of scarves and she hands out to sisters. And she has some ties and she hands out to brothers, but she runs about 3 short. So she's standing there awkwardly, and then it's almost like the light bulb goes off, and she rushes across the room, up the stairs, to True Parent's bedroom, and she comes down with a fistful of Father's ties, which really surprised him. I'd never thought a remark by him would be so simple, so unexpected. He goes, "My time!" And she commenced to hand out ties to leftover brothers, at which I'm very low on the totem pole, so I got one of True Father's ties, which was amazing to me, you know. And I'm constantly on alert for pictures of the True Father wearing that particular tie, but I have yet to see that tie publicly photographed. So it was interesting to see the character of True Mother wanting to give with such a motherly heart. And I was surprised to see Father react so spontaneously, surprised. And I thought, oh, interesting. Then, let's see, another one is, all right, after we purchased the New Yorker, there were different events going on. And Father and True Mother were being chauffeured by me sometimes. And at one point, they received a gift basket full of fruit that they carried with them in the back seat, you know, just to nibble on. And one security brother and myself were in the car with them, driving them to New York for some event or meeting. I can't quite remember which. And we parked in front of the New Yorker, and they got out and went inside. And habitually, the security staff who are in vehicles will relocate to another place so that other people don't know when we're picking up True Family and True Parents. And it's a security measure to protect them. And before we left, there was one sister kind of leaning back against the building, just looking at us, kind of scowling. I said, "You just want, you know, my mind is, you just watched your parents get out of the car and go in a hotel for some event, and you're out here scowling at us. Why?" So I reached in the back seat, I pulled out an orange from the basket of fruit. And Ordinarily, we would do that. But I rolled out the window and I said, "You look like you could use some positive feeling right now. Here's an orange from True Mother and True Father." And she just shocked. She stood upright and she timidly walked over and accepted the orange. She said, "I have no words. I can't explain myself." And then she was standing there, she was talking to me a little bit. I was the only one in the car at the time, the security brother had gone with Through Family. And she says, I asked her, why were you so scowling, so depressed? And she says, all I see is leaders in big cars, having fancy dinners, and you security people think you own the world. You just walk around impervious to all us lesser beings. And he said, I'm sorry you feel that way. But it's not really the case. You know, we're just brothers and sisters like yourself, but we have a mission to do. And in the mission of keeping true parents safe, we have absolute standards, which is suspicion of everyone. Because danger can come from any directions, for any reason, any motivation, from the fallen world, from people within the church. It doesn't matter. We have one job: to protect True Family. That's it. So we suspect each other as well. We watch even each other. Security force, security members. I wish Jack was here. He could testify to this. Because at that period of time, different assassinations were going on around the world, and the people who were assassinating the people getting killed were the bodyguards. So fallen nature exists everywhere, and whatever motivation might trigger these actions occur in the world. So we're suspicious of everybody. It's not like we're arrogant. It's not like we're better than you. It's just we have one mind. That is protection. So everybody is suspect. Although we're polite, still there's an underlying emotion ready to jump at any moment. Don't fall for our lives. So she said, I didn't realize this. And she went away. And I went about the day, and her parents came out and got in the car and went elsewhere. About a year later, I saw her again. And I said, hello, do you remember me? I gave you an orange, from True Parents' car. He says, oh, that saved my life. He says, I was so depressed, so angry at members, so angry at leaders, that the moment that you presented that orange and said it was from True Parents, and it was you, a security la-di-da person, he says it just broke a lot of concepts. So I put it on my dresser, and over the past year, it has shrunken down to the size of a walnut. It says, but I always kept that to remind myself, do not judge superficially. There's always a back story, a back reason why people do things, why they are who they are. So that was an opportunity to kind of act for True Parents in a moment where another member needed help, understanding. Right now, Hyojin. Who has ever seen Hyojin? Okay, not everybody. During his teenage life, he was very, very, I would like to say, rambunctious, aggressive, energetic. So I'm driving Dr. Bobby Park and dropped him off at a morning meeting at East Garden. And Father is addressing Japanese leaders from different nations in which they're representing. So he had about 12 different leaders there talking to them, and he brought them outside. It was a summer day. And in front of East Garden there used to be a swimming pool, which is now just a flower garden. And then as you continue on, there's hills up both sides of the driveway that go up to East Garden, some grassy hillsides. So Father takes these Japanese leaders and he sits them down in the grass in their suits. They're sitting on the hillside, listening to Father talk. And he's addressing each of them, giving them guidance, something or other, in Japanese. Now, I had seen Hyojin several times antagonizing his sisters. One of his favorites was taking one of their big stuffed animals, a bunny rabbit or a bear, taking it out on the front lawn and filling it full of arrows. So it looks like a pincushion. You know, and they're not watching him do this. They discover this. You know, he goes back in the house and he's still, your doll is out there. And they come out the door, "Wah!" Pulling out the arrows and they're crying and they run back inside. So I've seen this a couple of times. So here's the Japanese leaders meeting being held on the grassy hillside, very beautiful summer day. And here comes Hyojin with a bow and an arrow. One arrow! And he walks out, and he's about maybe 50, 60 feet away. And he sees what's going on. It goes like this. Up in the air. And lands about 10 feet from Father. Father looks over. And he commits to talking. Hyojin goes back and gets another arrow. Comes back out. Up it goes. You have no idea where this thing is coming down. It comes down almost exactly in the same, couple of feet within the same distance. Father really gets angry. And he yells and shouts and screams at Hyojin to go back in the house. And he does. And then he starts to come back out of the house. This time he doesn't have anything in his hands. I think he's going to apologize. True Mother has scolded him too. And she comes out to the doorway and she's watching. And he walks out and he didn't engage in the leaders' meeting, but he walks out and he bows. And he goes back inside. So you find yourself in situations that, because of your service, you get to observe character and the nature of true family in odd moments. So that was one addressing young teenage Hyojin. Later on, as the fishing business was growing, True Father would travel from Gloucester down to Norfolk and back, sometimes by air, in commercial, with his security team, sometimes driving, usually driving. And it's a pretty long drive. So at that time, Dr. Bohipak, I had been driving for a year or better by that time, asked me, because he'd seen me looking at different aviation magazines. He says, "Do you know something about airplanes?" I says, "Yeah, a little bit." And he says, "You have some magazines and catalogs in the car in the back?" "Yeah, some in the trunk." "Okay." So he gets out of the car. We're at East Garden, just coming up to the circle. And he gets out, he goes inside. And Father's thinking of purchasing an airplane so that he can travel quickly between the two distant parts. There's Norfolk, New York, Gloucester. And I'm sitting there and not paying attention to too much. And pretty soon he comes out and waves me in. He says, bring some magazines, especially a catalog. And so I go inside East Garden, and True Mother, True Father are sitting in the dining room. Have any of you ever seen the dining room in East Garden? It's as dining rooms go, it's kind of small. And it's even smaller because it has a huge glass case along one wall. It has different mementos and so on in it. And so I'm standing in the kitchen with these handful of magazines in my hand, wondering, what's going on. And Dr. Pong comes out and he says, come with me. Well, I wants to ask questions about airplanes. So I come into the dining room, and True Mother, True Father, I think, trying to remember who else. Can't remember who else was in the room, just one or two people. And Father looks at me and says, so, you want to be pilot? Oh, yes, very much. Aren't you a little short? What? Father, I had to think fast. Size is not important. What is important? Heart, skill, loyalty. Good answer. So he says, Dr. Pog had given him the catalog to a nearby airport where planes were for sale. So he was looking at different airplanes. And this testifies to how quick True Father is. He says, used plane is more expensive than new plane. Why? So because of electronics. When you buy a new plane, it has very fundamental electronics. And the pilot wants to upgrade his electronics for his purpose, his mission. So there's navigation, radar, communication systems, all kinds of things that cost thousands of dollars being put into the new airplane to cater to the needs of the pilot. And so he's just looking at different things. And then he looks at True Mother and he says something, and they both start giggling. And I'm thinking, okay, here I am. What are they giggling about? And do you ask the question, or do you just endure the moment? Because I felt sure that they were giggling about me, because they kept looking at me and commenting to each other and giggling. So there I was, being interviewed by True Father about desires regarding the aviation world and planes and so on. And Dr. Pog turns to me and says, thank you very much. Okay, go back to the car. All right, so back to the car. And this begins a research program. Says for the next several months, research what it takes to be a pilot, to train a pilot, to buy a plane. So in my course of driving him around, I was also researching by phone and so on. Different flight schools, good flight schools. Because I wasn't arrogant enough to think, oh, just me. But Father wants to send somebody to a flight school, somebody who will be his pilot, his crew, for the plane that he's thinking about buying. And he wasn't thinking about buying something with propellers, he was thinking about a small business jet. So I mentioned a couple of business jets that were really new and up and coming. Low on gas, low on expense, high on capability. And then in the course of researching, there were several schools, some of the best flight schools are in Texas. So Dr. Bach asked me, he says, do you want to become a pilot? Says, yes, but it'll cost approximately this much because 2 licenses are required. First a private pilot, then a commercial, actually 3, then multi-engine, 4, then jet, if jet is required. So 4 licenses required is several thousands of dollars involved in a period of time. And he says, there's no way that I can just ask your father for money. Everybody asks him for money for this project, for that project. So he says, Dr. Bach, let me fundraise for a year, at least a year, and be able to use what I fundraise to finance flight school. So, you want to join MFT? No, but anyway, I'm willing to try. He says, okay, so call me back in 1 year. Well, as it comes to pass, he used to brag that he sent his driver to MFT, but he never elaborated why. It wasn't his decision, it was my decision. So anyways, thus began my MFT career for the next 5 or so years, because when I called him back, he says, now is not the time, keep fundraising. So there went that career, and began a new career. So it was very interesting to have that kind of dream, have that kind of interaction, and then offer it. Even though it's really something you want to do, right? And then offer it, and then just continue on. There are other plans in my future. So I will discover them as he discovers them. And then to wrap up, actually, there isn't a wrap-up. That was kind of the last one. I timed it up pretty well. So that people say, you should write a memoir. Well, I'm currently slowly doing that. And it also will be entitled Behind the Scenes. One happy, celestial laughing event was at Belvedere. After Father gave Sunday service, he asked different leaders representing different nations to come together with him to play Ute. He says, I need a representative from every country. And I was the only handy representative of the United States at the moment. And so I got to play Ute with your father and all the central figures that were there. And you just like the game Sorry. So he's playing, and Father's coaching. And there's like Mr. Robert Kamiyama, anyway, there are a lot of the top leaders. And they're arguing Father, because they'll move and they want to kick someone out. And he said, no, and then they yell back and forth and fight almost. And Father got to laughing so hard. Again, he was in a big plush chair up in True Parents' master bedroom in Belvedere. And he got to laughing so hard that he started to slide out of the chair, just belly laughing. And it was like the heavens opened up and everybody was laughing. The whole universe was laughing. It was an amazing feeling, because people have seen Father cry, but have they seen him ho, 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 belly laugh, to the point where he loses control of sitting in a chair? And so it was different moments that I've been blessed with experiencing. And I thought I'd share these. And I hope, that more of you share your experiences, whether they be our church boot camp called MFT, or private missions, different organizational missions, that kind of thing, in which you've been able to be with your parents and see them in their atmosphere. So, thank you very much. Please join me. Heavenly Father, we thank you for our lives. That we have so many different experiences from childhood to adulthood, to parenthood, to married life. The list goes on and on, but you've been so much a part of our lives. Your parents have been so much a part of our lives, either directly or indirectly. But still, we're very grateful to be alive at this time of true parents and true family, your only begotten daughter. We pray that we can cherish in our heart these moments, share them with our families, share them with each other. It's the building of our character as a movement and as a world life. So we offer this time of sharing and caring to you. And we pray with gratitude and with humility, upholding our true parents' name as blessed family members. Amen.